as a well-rounded set of tests from a CrossFit standpoint, it is garbage programming. However, they don't claim to do that. I'm not slating it because they can do whatever they want, and they did. And credit to them. Like I said, it's really well done. Yeah, we could go into workouts where it's like, what was even the point in having that in there? But I don't want to you can always like cherry pick stuff, and I think that I don't want to complain about the programming.
No, yeah, and I also don't think that even if you did, those guys that are still winning, regardless of what the workouts are, they're probably still winning. All right, we're back. AOD podcast underway. First one we've done in a while since post games, episode number 23, and hopefully we'll get back into a little bit more regular structure with these, keep them a little bit more free flowing. But I think good for us to just chat about things that are going on, training, and all of that jazz. So hopefully, first of many. Today we're just going to chat about Rogue and Lowlands Throwdown. Right, weekend before. You were at Rogue Invitational in Scotland. I was at Lowlands Throwdown in Eindhoven. We had athletes at both, so I think it'll be good just to catch people up on how they went, our takeaways, all of that jazz. It's always fun to go to a comp, right, and then break it down afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's sorry to tangent immediately, but it's kind of like why we do it, right? Don't get me wrong, we work with all levels of athlete, but we want to be going to comps, especially big like European or like international comps, and try and have people end up doing super well.
Yeah, it's always fun, isn't it? And I think it's always different. I think for you, I'm sure, for me, it's been, and I'm yet to do it. Rogue's probably one of those bucket list competitions that you want to go to, right? You've got the games, you've got Wadapalooza, and then Rogue is like there as one of those comps. So for you, that's also great. And I think it's cool because, especially Rogue, unlike other competitions, it's maybe first time that people get like exposure to implements, right? So for you, well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I found this, but it's almost like it's the one time that you actually get to practice coaching a little bit more in the back room, right? It might be like, oh, this is a new thing that we've not used before. We've got to kind of figure out how to use it and practice it and see how it goes. And you don't always get that exposure, but that's what Rogue's really fun for, right? That very different kind of comp to normal. Lowlands is a bit more like your classic CrossFit comp, whereas Rogue, it's so unique in what it is, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. I thought the just to touch on it quick, the Lowlands workouts, because I had Tristan and Lex there, obviously, and you were managing them. I thought they were pretty good, like well-rounded CrossFit workouts, but Rogue is a different story. Obviously, I'm sure we'll probably go over this anyway. It doesn't claim to be a test of CrossFit. Yeah. It's not a CrossFit affiliated event. It's their own invitational and their own sort of spectacle. And being behind the scenes this time round, obviously having watched it before, you know it looks amazing. You can tell it's pretty well run. But being behind the scenes, it was really cool to see a lot of that, because it was clockwork. It was absolute clockwork with regards to kit, briefings, athletes like knowing where they need to be, knowing if I had a question, knowing where to go. Like, it was very, very well organized. Probably the best organized competition I've ever been to.
That's cool. That's good praise, right? Yeah, it's always funny, isn't it? Because especially lower level comps across the board, even something like Lowlands that has been a semi-final before, right? It's funny, like no briefings and no like that's like they brief you 10 minutes for a workout, and it's very much like and there's so it's just the two completely different levels. But like you say, right, they're two very different tests as well, and I think that's across the board. If you look at a competition season, Lowlands is your classic CrossFit event, in the sense of it is just testing your normal things, whereas Rogue is completely different kind of thing. And that we'll get into that anyway. But didn't even really plan to go to Rogue, right? Very much last minute for Harry to get an invite.
Yeah, I mean, it was on the cards because he finished well at the games, improved on his placing last year. He was already stacked fairly highly, and because of the way, for people that maybe don't know, the way that the Rogue power rankings work, even though it turns out they pretty much ignore that and just invite whoever they want, it looks across like a period of time, not just one season. And so because Harry is like relatively new on the scene, you have to be doing well for a few years to actually climb the ranks in the Rogue power rankings. So we knew it'd be close. I kept a GPP phase after the games anyway, because we're going into off season. But then it got closer to the time, maybe like I think 4 or 5 weeks out. Harry actually had a call with Katie from Rogue, kind of just asking like, what do you think? And she basically said, you're on our shortlist, but you're not gonna get invited.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
okay, fine, better luck next year, kind of thing. And then yeah, about 2 weeks before, obviously we get the invite and had to pivot a little bit.
Yeah, very much right. Two week prep is not going to be ideal, especially for, like you say, the nature of Rogue, right? If it was a more classic CrossFit comp, it's probably a lot easier to keep that training going. Like you say, GPP probably the best thing to do in the lead up to Rogue because of how almost like a strength test it is across the whole weekend, right? Compared to if it's a regular CrossFit comp, it's kind of easy to prep for that. But all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, we've got to practice log bar muscle ups, we've got to practice the lateral pegboard, we've got to practice real heavy lifting under fatigue in a workout, right? So it's kind of two completely different things. So yeah, I guess with that, we can just start there, right? Two different comps completely. Obviously, Lowlands we were prepped for. Your athletes, my athletes, you know kind of what's going in. Harry very kind of under prepped in a way for Rogue, but kind of went into it. So I guess what was your expectations going in with Harry for Rogue? Did you kind of sit down and chat about that? I know I spoke to him a little bit about it, but I'd love to get your view of what you guys.
Yeah, there were no real expectations other than to go and like represent himself super well. Obviously, you know the type of nature that all these guys are at that level. No one wants to. No one's there just to make the numbers up. Everyone wants to compete. Harry always wants to compete. However, I yeah, there's so much I could say about the programming and the tests and stuff, and we can dig into that. But I said to him that typically, stereotypically, these aren't amazing events for him, especially in a more heavily American based field, right? Because in Europe, the strength standard is slightly lower in general.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rogue is known for its strongman nature and heavy implement exposure, as you said. So, the goal was just to go try and do every workout as best we can, learn a load of stuff. Like we never spoke about like playing up to the crowd. You know Harry,
Yeah.
you know how he is. Like as soon as that workout finished, he's like looking to have a good time and chat to people and whatever, like and piss about a bit. So I think all in all, as a package deal, it was a fantastic thing and it kind of met expectations. There are some performances, and we can go into it, that he performed as I expected. There were some he performed worse than I expected. There were some he performed as I expected.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like even I remember chatting to him, and it's you're not going to say to someone a competition on paper is bad for someone, really, especially at that level. But yeah, like you're saying, just the nature of the workouts, the nature of the field. It's the top 20 guys in the world, really, right? And then like people that you
Yeah,
get to
but
compete against at the game. So it's hard to say going in, oh yeah, I want to place X, Y, Z because you never know. And him being, I shouldn't say this I wouldn't say on the smaller side, but slightly on the smaller side of the guys as well. Yeah, very, very heavy implement bias. It's not going to be the best for him. I think for that he did really, really well, right? With the prep you guys had and stuff. Like you say, only getting 2 weeks on the log, only getting 2 weeks on the lateral pegboard, even that stuff, right? Having to adapt to that on the fly is challenging, isn't
yeah, no, you're right. And for those that weren't there, for example, the thing is, right? The thing is, it all depends. That's always the answer, right? Uh, on what you gauge the test to be, because the last 3, 4 years we've been working with Harry, obviously, we have been training for one sole purpose, pretty
it?
much, which
Yeah,
was to do well at the semi-finals and qualify for the CrossFit Games. Even this year, just gone in Albany, because of the how hard it was to qualify for the games with the different structures. We're not just, we're not just blasing it through semi-finals. There's a massive peak for semi-finals. He got 11th out of 11th on the worldwide
yeah,
semi-finals. So I think it really depends on the test. Rogue is not a test that we are prepared have been prepared for, because people would say, "Man, he's pretty good at overhead squats and burpees, right?" And I'm like this. Oh, you mean CrossFit, right? Like, I think it's obvious to see that Harry is a CrossFitter. Um, but a lot of this stuff was either bottlenecked by a skill or a movement in the programming. And a lot of that was based on either odd object strength or particular closed skill like
yeah,
variation. Yeah.
yeah. There's
Yeah.
like obviously the guys who do really well at Rogue. Don't get me wrong, they're obviously unbelievable. It's also the people that can kind of on paper say they can just train all year for the games, and then they know post games they're going straight to Rogue. They can keep that training going and do that right. Maybe they're touching not on something like a log bar muscle up, but they're touching on, heavy back squats in workouts, stuff like that you know is going to be biased at Rogue, when you don't have to do that if you're prepping for the semis and even prepping for the games necessarily, right? Like you said, they're two kind of different tests, and definitely like Rogue as a whole is much more like strength endurance and strength biased. But yeah, it's just good that, hopefully you go once, you get a bit of exposure to that. Hopefully you can go again, and then if you know you're going again, you can do a little bit more of that training in the lead up, right? And all year round too, because like you say, that only 2 week turnaround isn't really enough time. Whereas if you knew he was doing that, you probably would have been doing a lot more heavy squatting in workouts and heavy deadlifting in workouts, people, things like that, right? Because then it's coming in some capacity.
I mean, you've absolutely hit the nail on the head, because especially this year, and this is something I'd like to say as well, is that we had 2 weeks. I'm putting Rogue prep workouts in, and I think I under-biased the amount of strength based on previous events, previous Rogue years. I would always have, sandbag, heavy yoke, blah, blah, blah in this, but it would always be mixed. Whereas I think there was a lot of very just pure strength endurance tests. And just like you said, post games, we go into a GPP phase. We've gone then into essentially like a base building accumulation phase, right? If you want to say like block periodization, and everything is focused around peaking Harry's max strength, and all this, but not strength endurance. Harry hasn't done a strength endurance workout since before the games, or in the 10 days leading up, but how much are you going to push that, right? So you're absolutely right. Like, it sounds ridiculous, and I don't want to make excuses, so I know Harry will not ever say stuff like this, but if we know that we're going next year, he will do a lot better next year, because you're right. You look at these top guys, Adler, Medeiros, Krennikov, Sprague, Crouch, Hopper, Ricky, Vellner, they all know that they're getting an invite.
Yeah.
And they've done it multiple years before. And I think that, that's one of the big takeaways, is that if we know next year, we can be way better prepared.
Yeah, I don't think you didn't do anything wrong as well with that, because previous years they've had max tests as well, right? It's been a max squat, clean and press. So testing those or building to maxes wasn't the wrong thing to do. It's just this year they obviously didn't have it in there. You had a fucking near maximal deadlift work, that was just a deadlift workout. You had obviously the heavy back squat and sandbag workout, but very strength endurance. So no, I guess conversely, to bring it back to the other competitions as well, you have Lowlands then on the other end of the spectrum, and it being a, say, lower level competition, very much more classically programmed, like you see regular CrossFit comps, right? There was a endurance test, quote unquote, but that's pure endurance is another thing. They had a max strength test in isolation. They had pretty much a gymnastics test in isolation, and then 3 CrossFit workouts, right? So across the board, very much what you normally expect to see at CrossFit comps. I'm not saying that stuff is easier to program for, but it's what people train for the most part all year round, right? It's what you prepare for. If you're doing CrossFit, you know that at some level you're going to be tested on those things. So you go into a competition expecting to do that, right? With my guys, I was building to snatch work, knowing that that's probably going to be a max snatch compared to last year when there was a max clean jerk, right? So it's you can go in being a little bit more prepared, kind of expecting the test to come up like they would, right?
Absolutely. And as a result, all the AADers at Lowlands did really, really bloody well. What do we have? 4 guys in the top 10?
4 guys in the top 5, 6? Yeah, wherever Tristan finished. Yeah, really, yeah. So
6th or 7th.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so wherever Tristan finished, that's 4 guys.
Yeah. So seriously good. And the girls who went, I think, did well for for them. I think they did really well.
It's always a good test, because all those European competitions, the standards is always good. It's never when you have a good field that's more than 10, 15 people. When you've got a good 30 people across the board, it's a really good standard of competition, right? Even the people, maybe you don't have loads of semi-final athletes there, but the ones that you do have are very good semi-final athletes, and then all the other people are the guys that are pushing on the girls, pushing on the bubble to be semi-final athletes, right? So it's always fun to go to those comps and get tested a bit more classically. Interesting question for you.
Yeah.
Lowlands being a classic CrossFit competition in the sense of what it tests, and then Rogue being what it is, very unique in its tests. What do you prefer? The format of tests and the
Lowlands, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, it depends what you're testing for.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean. Rogue, I imagine they look at it and they go, okay, we're gonna invite all these CrossFitters, right? Most of them are all brutally strong. right? Because they bring in specialists, right? Like Guy
Yeah,
and I'm going to call Colton a specialist.
yeah,
And then they go, right, we need to show off a bunch of kit, but we also got to make them do some like punishingly hard workouts because the fans will love it. But we also kind of need to make it CrossFit-esque, but
yeah,
they
yeah.
they don't say the word CrossFit ever, right? So, as a well-rounded set of tests from a CrossFit standpoint, it is garbage programming. However, they don't claim to
Yeah,
do
they don't
that,
claim
so
to.
I'm not slating it because they can do whatever they want, and they did, and credit to them. Like I said, it's really well done. Yeah, we could go into workouts where it's like, what was even the point in having that in there? Um, but I don't want to kind of. You can always like cherry pick stuff, and I think that I don't want to complain about the programming.
No, yeah, and I also don't think that even if you did, those guys that are still winning, regardless of what the workouts are, they're probably still winning, right? So
Yeah, this is the
it's
thing.
probably not going to change the top five. It would maybe change the top 10. Like, I don't know, maybe, okay, obviously Jason winning the games, he's going to bump up probably. But like all those guys within the top 10 are probably still going to be top 10, regardless of what the tests are. It maybe changes the further down the leaderboard for sure. But again, it's just kind of what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do. I mean, you have to kind of. Unfortunately, take Harry as living, breathing proof of that in the sense that put put 8 CrossFit workouts in front of
Yeah,
these guys, he's probably going to finish higher up than he did.
yeah, for sure.
In
Yeah,
fact, I'm going to, he's going to finish a lot higher up than he did, as he did at the games. And now, obviously, it's a smaller field. Not all these guys are at the games, etc., etc. But yeah, like the two more balanced CrossFit workouts, Harry did well in, right?
yeah, for sure. Right, yeah. But like you say, it's not. They don't claim to test that, and it's just that one that's like, well, it's just what it is, isn't it? And then Lowlands, you more classic. Well, the best, say, quote unquote, CrossFitters are going to be the ones who win or excel in that. And again, you kind of see that, right? The guys who are, top of semi-finals or towards the top of the semi-finals are the guys who are standing on the podium, and then the guys that are pushing that semi-final level are just below. The same on the girls' field, right? It's just like you can kind of not you could assume who was going to win going in, but with the prep that you did, right? Like Sven obviously won on the guys' side going into that competition. His goal was to win, and it was like, well, you probably should win if we can, because of how it prepped you, right? Whereas Rogue's a little bit more of an unknown. Whereas everyone can say, oh, I'm sure people would assume some would have guessed that Jeff would have won, but you could say anyone in that top 10 would have placed anywhere in that top 10. Really, you kind of don't know what they're going to learn. So I
Yeah,
guess
for sure.
any
For sure.
workouts you were looking forward to for when they got announced with Harry,
Sorry,
or not looking forward to?
sorry.
Any workouts you were like really looking forward to, or not looking forward to with Harry when you're going in when they're running?
Yeah, I mean, okay, let me pull the workouts up quick. Okay, lateral pegboard is always going to be bottlenecked by that. Harry made massive improvements over 10 days, but these guys have practiced it for years, some of them, since last year anyway. And certainly post games, as you said, going into that block. Now, you probably wouldn't be able to see this on the live stream, but basically Harry, because it's a double pegboard, right? It's a double width. And so first one, he gets a bit of a rhythm, hits it. He's in the top 3 in his heat. And I'm like this, if he can do that the whole way through, he's going to get a good finish here for sure. And by good, I mean top 10, because anything top 10 in this field is really good, top half, right? And then on the second one, he goes along all the way to the end and then misses the last peg. And I'm like, that is so costly, because it's essentially like doing 2 legless rope climbs or 3 and only getting credited for like one of them. Anyway, he then goes again, misses the last hole again. And that's when he looks at me. I'm like, kind of like, sorry, bro, but that's it. Like, you're done. Not you're done, but like, there's this small element of accuracy, and if it pays off, you do well. But unfortunately, on that side, we're the wrong side of it, and he missed out. But I think it's just worth noting that because if people weren't watching the live stream, that actually he basically, by the time he'd done 2 rounds, had done nearly as many traverses as some of the other guys would have had to do who didn't miss. So that's where the element of accuracy comes in, which is good. But I think, yeah, I wasn't looking forward to that one. I was looking forward to the log one, because we had some success on the log at home, nothing great. Chandler was with us the week before, and he kind of smoked Harry on a log muscle up workout by just kind of like, pardon the pun, like muscling his way through it almost. But Harry got some good takeaways, so it was cool to see. I was like, okay, it'll be cool to see how that plays out. Also, there's this cool like CrossFit buy-in, right?
Hmm.
So I was looking forward to that one. I was not looking forward to the log clean and press yoke power stair, or the strength endurance back squat, dumbbell snatch sandbag. Like Harry came off event two. You've heard all these stories, Ad, so I apologize. And he's like, I've done something to my back. Like my back is bad, and he's like, he can't turn his neck, he can't look down, he can't twist, and I'm worrying that he's like slipped a disc and or something like that, and he's getting bad nerve thing. But he did it on the log press on like round two, and then really had to back off. Um, and then it just did not settle down for event three. So we questioned him even going out for event three.
Yeah.
Before he was about to go out, I was like, "Are you sure? Because this is big, but this is not the goal, Rogue,
Yeah.
right? Your goal is still next year, trying to place higher at the game. So, just take that with a pinch of salt." He went out, did what he could. Like, can you even imagine trying to do that workout with like you know what I mean? Like a back pump or like a spasm in your back. Like, anyways, I know all the guys had to get through all this. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I'm just giving people a bit of context.
Yeah, I
Log
think
traverse.
it's interesting because with those ones, like you said, it's the good and the bad, right? Whereas like the log muscle up and the lateral pegboards and the log clean and press, they're all things that you haven't necessarily done, and it's like picking up the skill. And although it's like, oh, it's just the muscle up, right? There's reasons that people who are very good at CrossFit really struggle with a log bar muscle up, right? Like you've got Lucy Campbell in a story saying she was literally failing the entire week leading up to it, and then just like she always does, is just a machine and gets through it really well on the day. And then you've got like Haley Adams who just struggled to get like any right, but normal bar muscle up is absolutely fine. And it's the same with the lateral pegboard and the log clean and press. It's almost like an element of how well can you pick up a skill in the 2-3 weeks you've got leading into it. But then also, like you said, how well can you kind of just fuck it and muscle your way through? And I think some people, maybe not necessarily Harry in this sense, but some people at detriment are always so worried about moving perfectly and getting things and being like really good with doing it. Oh, I'm doing a bar muscle up. It's just on a log, so I'm gonna, glide kip and like do like I normally would. And they then get so focused on trying to move well that they then can not do the thing. And sometimes it's
Yeah.
just about just doing the thing, right? Not even doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be pretty. You just kind of have to get through it.
No, you're right. You're right. I think Harry always wants to try and like move well, right, and be super efficient and everything. So I don't think it held him back too much. I think it just sounds like I'm making excuses, but just give us like 2, 3 more weeks on that thing, and honestly, he would have been flying. Like we could maybe pull some videos up. I don't know, AI pull up videos of Harry literally struggling to do a couple of pegs,
Yeah, yeah.
and then 3, 4 days later, like doing like quite a good technique across. Obviously, this is in skill isolation. You know, when you throw it in a workout, it's going to be harder. But we only have 2 weeks to practice, and you got to start somewhere. So, yeah, I think you're absolutely right, mate. Like, I think just having the experienced heads there who have done this before, you could really tell. You could really, really tell.
You like it is really one of those hallmarks of a really good athlete in CrossFit at a high level is those people who can acquire and pick up skills really, really quickly. And Harry has done that. It's just still not the level of these other guys, right? He's still managed
Oh
to
yeah,
do it really well. It's just not
this is
quite
just
there.
another level because it's a whole new bunch of skills where maybe the transferability from other things isn't as great, right? But you're right about that. I mean, and I am not taking any credit for this, but me and Harry, like, then off on Thursday when we had the briefings and all the kit set up, um, Lucy was in the back room afterwards, and we were walking off, and we were some of the last to leave, and she said, "Have you done any log muscle ups?" And Harry's like, "Yeah, like we got one installed and we've practiced, like blah 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 blah." She said, "Can you have a look? Like, what do you think? Like, what do you think?" She was
Yeah.
basically asking for advice, and we gave her some. And I'm not, saying that she took it as well, but do you know what I mean? Like, it is interesting. Like the night before, Lucy's obviously
Yeah,
still
people still,
trying
yeah.
to figure things out, get that information, but it's then who can do that and then put it into practice when shit's not going your way, you're fatigued, like you've got to make these decisions under high mental and
Yeah.
physical fatigue. So it's super interesting. It's such a big part of competing that people maybe don't think about.
Yeah, it also comes back to like even at the games, right, with the whole pegboard debacle thing. It's like
Yeah.
the people who some people still manage to just fucking get through it because they just found a way and just did it because they can adjust technique and it's being able to have that ability like, oh, so like you say, something's not going right, how can I just do it anyway or just get through it, right? So
Some
no,
would say adapt.
yeah, almost, yeah, like that. No, wicked. What's your favourite moment from Rogue, I guess, with Harry?
I mean, it's got to be his heat win with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
overhead squat. I know to be cliche, but obviously he's pretty pissed off by this point in the weekend, and we were warming up for it, and I was like, how's the back? How's the back? He was like, it actually feels okay. Like, obviously, we did a load of movement work stuff for it. And what I do love is because there's a bit of shit talk backstage. Like, some people are good at it, some people are friendly, some people keep themselves, whatever. But Harry's like doing mini rounds, like potentiation style stuff. And these burpees are fucking quick. And people are looking at him, looking at me, and being like, is that what he's going to do? I'm like, this. Let's see. Like, I'm like, this is cross, like, and this is our jam, right? Harry Keane always says, like, barbells and burpees, right? When does AOD do badly in that? Not often.
Simple shit. That's just fitness,
that,
right?
that was a big highlight. Trying to think of favorite things. No, let's just keep it at that.
Yeah. No, for sure. Obviously, spoken a bit about the program and gone through that, and that is like the one workout on board that is kind of like classic CrossFit, and that and he does really well. That first workout, pretty much classic CrossFit. Obviously, the log bar muscle ups are fun to implement in there, and you've done really well on that. And then you've got these other workouts that I say on paper and watching them are pretty fun, right? The whole like log clean and press with a yoke carry, like it's very much strength and power endurance, and you know kind of what you're getting, and the big strong guys and the people who actually just picked up the log clean and press well, just got through it, right? Some people just really struggle with that because it is another kind of skill implementation. Then you kind of obviously have the brutally going straight from that into the back squat heavy dumbbell snatch workout. Again, very much similar stimulus and similar kind of like workout, just a little bit longer, more like on the strength endurance side of stuff. Pretty brutal day on the back and just posterior chain, right? Full stop.
There were people like, I am not exaggerating when I say Harry couldn't put his shoes on Saturday morning. Yeah, it was really bad, really bad. I know a lot of people were bad, but I think whatever happened in the log press workout spasmed up Harry's back really bad. Yeah.
And at least they started with a nicer workout on the Saturday for that, right? It was the bench press horizontal pegboard one to start, which again wasn't too much on the back. And like you say, not a bad workout on paper. It all came down to the horizontal pegboard though. And with the bench press, a weird one, obviously doing it body weight, right? Like it's kind of, we were kind of texting about it when you said they announced it at the briefing. And it's a weird one because not that it's good or bad. In that workout, it didn't really play a factor at all, like the bench press.
No, I think,
yeah,
I agree, because there's this big debacle and kerfuffle in the briefing when they're like, we need to take your body weight and blah blah blah, and everyone's like, oh, what's it going to be for? What's it going to be for? Which is exciting, and then really it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like we spoke about this a bit, and again, I'm not slating anybody or anything, but when it comes to bench pressing, body weight is a factor. Don't get me wrong, but probably what anthropometrics is probably more of a factor. So I thought maybe it might be deadlift weight, because body weight and deadlift maybe is a little bit more like poignant and meaningful. So yeah, that's the workout I'm frustrated with, because I feel like you could put bench into the strength endurance workout, aka, you know what I mean? So you've got squat hinge press instead of squat hinge. And then you could have put something a little bit slower into that pegboard workout where there could be more time to catching up, but really it's just a lateral pegboard workout, right? Like, yeah. But then again, like I say, Rogue don't claim to be testing this thing, so I don't want to kind of speak too early I
do think it opens a door. The issue that, like, when you were saying about it, kind of has issues. It opens a door to like, why the bench press, and then why only the bench press for one workout of the weekend? It's like if you were starting to go down the route of, strength to weight ratios into, determine your barbell, I think it is not dangerous. That's obviously not the right word, but it's like, where do you start and where do you stop with that? Because it's never been that, right?
Rabbit hole. Yokes.
Yeah. The only time it's ever come close to that has been Linda, right, from semi-finals, where it was like, but again, it's not like the same. It's taking like averages as well, right? So it's just a bit of a funny one. Like you say, it didn't really have that much of an impact. What was event 5 again? Because that was one they didn't release until you got there.
That was the dual log traverse, and they had sled pull sandbag. I was not looking forward to that one, I'm not gonna lie, because and again, I'm not trying to be sort of like harsh on Harry here, but this is like when I say sprint workout, like the epitome of sprint workout, right?
Yeah.
Even in CrossFit, this would be this is quicker than a sprint. So also you've got guys who've done it before as well. Harry's like agility is not like amazing relative to a lot of these guys who have, even though Harry's got a great rugby background, like a lot of these guys come from power sports over a stateside, you know. He did well to get through the first one. But I think actually, again, like it was weird watching, maybe at home, it was even obvious to see, you know, it kind of was more about just the sled pull than anything else. Like people could, like Patty V, I saw one heat. Wow, he got like a couple meters ahead to the sled. Didn't actually matter. Or maybe it did matter long term because the times across heats, but right, it was like, how balanced was that test, right? I don't know.
You got Laura Horvath as well, right? Getting there last pretty much every single time, and then she's just such a machine on the sled, and then just wins every time. I think it's interesting what you said there as well about being like not shitting on Harry. It's not, you're obviously not shitting on Harry at all, but I think it's funny when you're at comps. It just made me think of this. Like you always have sometimes those people and those coaches who are just overly confident on everything they do all the time. And I very much don't think we're like that. And you're definitely not like that with Harry, right? It's like sometimes you've got to know when events aren't going to be in your favour, and you've got to be like, right, okay, this isn't going to be a top 5 finish. Don't care. What can we do to make sure you get the best out of it, right? Instead of going in with like some wild, unfound confidence, it is then actually just going to knock you when it's like, oh, I thought I was going to come top 5 because you said that, and then I've come last, and it's like,
no.
Wow,
I mean, you're right. Like, surely anyway, the goal anyway is just to maximize the output of your event, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. And then at the end, you kind of look at the placing, you're like, oh, well, I did well, or I didn't. Like you just said it there. Like, but also, what does that do for buy-in and trust and learning and communication between like a coach and an athlete? And I ain't naming names, but there's some funny, um, there's some funny ex people backstage who say things, and they are so far off. Like either what we think or actually the reality of what happens. So, but that's, you know, each to their own. Each to their own.
I did this one. This one's an interesting one as well because I wanted to talk about it. No, just been talking ages, but obviously, annoying part about this event, Sam Quant, right, ruptures Achilles. You've got same style event last year. Gavin Magala, Henrik Apalainen, both ruptured their Achilles on the same style of event. And obviously, you could say you shouldn't be doing that style of event. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think it's more the case of what it means for your training moving forward and what you should be doing, especially if you're prepping for Rogue, knowing that that stuff's coming up. Like, obviously, both instances happen on, you know, like basically landing, right? Heavy, very high impact landing, way more than you normally do. These guys accumulate so much volume with double unders, running, heavy double unders, but actually jumping over a fucking log or jumping over a box and dropping from 4 foot, 5 foot, like that impact on your Achilles, if you're then trying to instantly create force and run, is just exponentially more than what you're used to if you don't train and prepare for that, right? And it's like an interesting one that happened again. You're not saying that it shouldn't happen at events, but it's like if you know that, you know, that event, that style of event is going to come up, that maximal sprint, and I mean properly maximal sprint, like you said, right? Like actually, let's do a cycle where we're doing speed work, and once a week you're going to go and do 100-meter sprint efforts, right? Like to actually work on your ability. Even that is still not quite the same, you know, impact on your Achilles.
Oh no, well, it's all like almost like ballistic and plyometric training is probably going to be the best thing, as you say. But my opinion on this event is that, in line with yours, it's going to sound like I'm shitting on the programming again, but I honestly believe
Harry's not going to get an invite back now.
I know. I honestly believe that you can minimize the risk, because there's always a risk with any event, right? You can minimize it by ordering the events differently, because look at that day one and the systemic fatigue that you're putting these guys under, and then you're asking their nervous system to react in the fastest possible way for that kind of like landing that you just spoke about. And I'm not surprised, honestly. I know that sounds a bit brutal, but you put this event first, the athletes are fresh, they don't have this fatigue in the system, they're probably going to be able to react better to these kind of things. Fine, of course, there's logistics of going to the competition. I get that they can't do that. I just wonder if these things are considered. Because, like if you calculate the tonnage moved on day one, and then give them the duel in the middle of day two, I just think that for me is the big consideration.
Like I say, it comes from both those standpoints, right? It can be maybe put a little bit considered for that, a little bit better into the weekend. But then also, not saying people, obviously Sam Quan and these people have trained for this, but there are obviously things that you've got to consider going in. It's like, wow, I really need to make this a priority, because injury prevention, especially at a comp like this, it should be like number one, right? And like you were saying about how Harry's back was feeling after the log, right? It's nothing's worth getting your season out for another year because you've done for one event. It's like, well, so yeah, it's always going to be a hard one to find, and it's kind of like that bridge, right? Like,
agreed. It is a hard one. It is hard. I don't want to sound like again like I'm slamming the program, so I'm not. But I do I think that could have had an effect. Is my opinion.
Okay, talking about not shitting on the program, and then you go into then the next event, and arguably not that it was like I'm going to be the devil's. Not that it was like it wasn't a terrible event. It wasn't a bad event, but like you alluded to earlier, right? The ski interval facing into deadlifts, arguably could have just been could have just done the deadlifts, nothing else, right? You could have just done the deadlifts as you've gone through.
Bro, we were sat in the brief, and they unveil it, and I'm like this, okay, and Rob's reading out the weights, and I'm noting them down, and I go, okay, pretty heavy, like totally doable, but pretty heavy, and I'm like this, right, because the day before, I've been told off for trying to build the power stairs with the rubber blocks, and then I'm like this, they're going to bring out the blocks, it's going to be deficit. I'm so pumped. We all know I know he didn't do well at the games, but he is pretty good on his hands, right? And I was like, this could be really up there. And then they just kind of leave, and I'm like this, what? And like Jake Macaroni turns around to me, he's like, you really wanted deficit? I was like, I really wanted deficit, bro, because as you said, I don't think it was balanced particularly well. You could have done a deadlift ladder, and the results would have been quite similar. I mean, you saw most of those guys couldn't get back quick enough just to kick up and go and then get down and go. So yeah, agreed.
Maybe the girl side was an okay test in that sense, but even if you just have a little bit of a deficit, some people are going to suffer a little bit more on that, right? And it's going to be maybe just a bit more of a balanced test across the board on that one.
I agree, but then they're not claiming to do a balanced test.
No, I never. Yeah, no, you are right.
I know. I just want to keep highlighting that because
obviously with how it makes you wonder where it comes from. Obviously, when there's new movements in there, is it a case of, like you say, they're biased and all they really care about is a deadlift, and they just want a tiny little bit of inversion interference, right, to work on how your blood's moving, or does someone think that the wall facing hand supplement that's going to be a challenge for someone? Do they think that's going to be hard?
This is where we do potentially cross the line of being too judgmental, because I have opinions on that. I'm not sure are we really going to get we're not going to get in that much trouble, are we? Also, who cares? Do people really even listen to us?
Depends who watches the podcast, right? Or they've got 7 minutes in, probably not.
As we know, I think most of the workouts were programmed by Josh Bridges, Chris Spieler, right? Rogue athletes. Great guys, I'm sure. Where credit's due, amazing for the sport, super impressive back then, but it's different now, and I do question whether they understood the weighting, as in not the weight of the barbell, the weighting of the two movements, and how actually, like you just said, those wall facing strict are not hard for especially for the male field when the biggest set is 12. And how these.
It wouldn't have taken much to make that workout a lot harder, right? You change the ski yoke from 1,000-meter ski yoke to calories on a ski, so that there's payoff to pushing it harder. Because right now, when it's 1,000 meters, you're the same. And even if you only added a 3.5 inch and a 2 inch deficit, it's not much at all. The best guys are still going unbroken comfortably. Maybe a few of them are breaking, but what it causes you to do is, I can really push these deadlifts hard, but now I'm going to have to actually kick back up, and now some of that volume is going to accumulate a little bit more. Or the other way is you just increase the number of wall facing every round, and it's more like
double it.
Yeah, just either of those things would have just made it a little bit more weighted, because across the board it's okay, the strongest person's going to win that workout, right? The back squat workout, the strongest person's probably going to win that. It's all just kind of the strongest person is leaning.
But then it's not a CrossFit test.
No, I never said no. Yeah,
but you're right. It's just we can't help ourselves. We can't help ourselves but analyze it. Yeah,
our brain is going down that route for sure. Okay, that's enough. I guess. Yeah, we've gone well. I mean, there's a couple other workouts we can obviously talk about, right? I guess with the overhead squat workout that went really well. The last workout with the running? No, the last work.
No, first one of day 3.
Yeah, I know. Again, on paper, probably. This is a bit of a weird one, right? People probably expected Harry to do a little bit better than they did.
I expected Harry to do a lot better. Harry expected to do a lot better. This one is the one of the weekend where Harry underperformed. Now, I don't think it's due to a lack of prep. I think that honestly, he was just messed up by this point. And when we were warming up, he always puts on a brave face, but he was like, his back is so bad that he's just not running like normal. And he's saying to me, like, I just, after he came off the event, he's like, I just couldn't run. And someone asked about, like, if we do more endurance work, but like, we don't need to. I think it was just in this particular scenario, in this case, with the way everything lined up, Harry wasn't actually able to express how good he is in that workout.
Yeah.
Which
Especially
is a
like from a
shame.
running standpoint, if you know his paces, right, you could tell on lap one, it's like, well, he's just way off of what he should
Yeah,
be running
way
at.
off, way off. I expected him and Chandler to have a pretty good battle in that one. And Harry was way behind, way behind. And yeah, he said he put it down to his back being really bad, which is a shame because if that's at the CrossFit Games or if that's even earlier in the weekend, like I say, but this is the thing is what I learned from last year is like from this year is like for next year is half of this competition is how much volume you can tolerate and how well you can recover from that volume, which is something that Harry has struggled with anyway. So yeah, that was pretty brutal.
No, again, it's two different sides to the coin when you look at different competitions, right? Because again, going back to Lowlands on that front, it's like it's a classic CrossFit workout. You know the rough time domains. Maybe there's going to be one long workout. It's very much going to look a lot more like training, and you kind of don't have that problem necessarily. Even Lowlands, which was very posterior chain heavy throughout like day 1 and 2, like very much on the back posterior chain. It's still the volume is not that crazy and the weights aren't that crazy because of more of like the logistics of them needing to get people through at a normal CrossFit comp. And I think when you're training for that, and even when you're training leading into say semis, like in-person semis competitions, it's going to be much more like that, right? You know the logistic constraints they're going to have, you know the time domain constraints they're going to have across the board. Yeah, there's going to be heavy stuff, there's going to be sandbags, but they're not going to be loading deadlift bars up to 230 for everyone because they just can't. They just don't have the weights, they don't have the time, they don't have any of that stuff. Yeah, there's going to be sandbags, but it's not going to be a friggin' 15-minute workout with back squats and sandbags and all that stuff, right? It's going to be, you're maybe doing rounds of 5 to 10 sandbag cleans at 90 kilos and that's it. So you can prep people for that a lot easier. You can't prep people for the Rogue stimulus unless you've gone and done it. And then, like you say, some of those guys seem to just handle the volume so much better because they're the people that know they're getting to the games, know they're going to Rogue. They can train with that kind of like volume accumulation and like volume tolerance throughout the whole year leading in, right? And then all of a sudden it's not so brutal, right? Like, I mean, sure, we can easily say this. Like, people on Mayhem seem to do quite well because everyone knows Mayhem's volume is just very high, right? And they just build up this massive tolerance to volume, which is credit to them. They do it all the time. So it's not right? Maybe it doesn't lead to the best peaks across like a competition year, but it leads to you just have this huge tolerance to be able to get through it, right?
I think you're absolutely right. Something I just to add on there is I think the way, and maybe a downside to my personal preference with coaching and coaching Harry is that the peaks are big, but that also comes with the troughs being big. And by no means is Harry unfit at any point in the year, but it is different. Like we very heavily prep to build and then we have to come down. And that's how I've done it. This year I'm going to try and have a slightly bigger base year round.
But it's interesting with where the sport's going as well, though, because this year obviously you've got WFP, so you've got some of these people who have competed so much more than they normally would. And again, across the board, you'd say those people that have been in the sport for longer and built up this huge base of tolerance to volume have done better across the board at all of those competitions because they can go from one to the next. And the people that are a bit more like, I have one goal in mind, get to the games, do well at the games, whatever it is, they have more peaks and they have like that. But I'm not saying this is the case. Obviously, you've not got Tia doing WFP and you've not got Tia doing Rogue. She goes and wins the games because that's her sole focus and sole purpose. She has a huge peak. If she would have tried to carry through and go to Rogue, maybe she would have still done really well because but she hasn't done WFPs. And then you've got,
Jeff didn't do the WFPs, top stop, and then came and won Rogue.
Pardon?
Jeff pulled out of the second WFP stop because he was supposedly, I don't know this, like black and white, but was dealing with some sort of niggle after the games or even maybe during, and now he wins Rogue. So like pick your battles, right?
But also, do you think, obviously we can talk about next season, that's a bigger topic for us to have on a future episode, but obviously you've got you've got the potential for lots of competitions again if someone decides to do that. Or are people realizing, actually, the way I've done that this year, you've had a lot of people pull out from things, not doing other WFPs that if they were meant to, not doing road, because all of these things, because they've tried to do too much. And are people going to go, okay, actually, no, I need to go back to having these big peaks and more time off between them and do that, and not just try and carry through? Or are you going to have people go, you know what, screw it, I want to try and make bank and do all these competitions and do the same again next year and have this more like base level that they train at the whole time? It would be interesting to kind of see.
Yeah, my opinion, again, whether you're right or wrong, is that if you're happy with where you're at, go and cash in.
Yeah.
But if you want to climb that leaderboard, especially at the top of the game, because it's such fine margins, I think you have to still look to peak for things. But you're looking at like, take Pat Vellner, right? No, like what an amazing career he's had,
Mm.
and he is, he obviously not doing the game season, but he's actually maybe that is a bad example. Jonakowski then.
Yeah.
So he's in Miami in January, looks really good, performs really well, has a couple of WFP store tops and a few the WFP tour stops. Harry beats him at the games quite comfortably. But then at Rogue, Yona beats him. Like, I don't know. It depends what you prioritize. I think you need to peak if you want to build, and if you want to be like, if you're happy with the level that you're at, aka, whatever that is for you, then like competing more is fine.
Like you say, it goes up, comes back down, and goes up again. Because if you're trying to get to a semi-final, trying to get to the games, you need to have a huge peak of your season when it's important, and the rest of the time, oh, sweet bubble, you need to be building up to that peak. If you're maybe at the games level, or you're like, oh, I just want to try and earn some money and make this a living, I'm going to go do as many comps as I can, then you are just staying, you're trying to concurrently train all year round to be at multiple peaks. And if you're someone who's like, well, I came 20th at the games, but I want to get on the podium, then you got to peak for the right time again, right? So it's all just, like you say.
I think so. Yeah. The problem is with anything like with CrossFit, there's so much unpredictability that you can have the best peak in the world, and then something happens, an event, a weird workout comes up, there's a judging call, like so you can't control it all. But that's still my opinion still stands.
No,
like that's
sure.
yeah.
So moving forward, obviously, you said you give Harry a bit more of a obviously bigger base through the next season training. Anything else you kind of change? Say right, Rogue's coming up this year. He goes to games. He's probably going to go to Rogue again. What would you change around training for like in the lead up to it, and even like through the year? Is there something you're going to touch on a little bit more? I know you had some questions on your Instagram about this. So is there anything you change more through training?
I'll pull up some of these questions actually, because we got quite a few, which was cool. What I would change, we already basically covered it. Like, you would see more of a volume tolerant, strength endurance accumulation style, kind of 6 weeks out, 6 to 10 weeks out, I suppose, to really try and set that base. So that would be a big factor. And I think, as you know, working with athletes, it does make a big difference, right? And it takes a while to be able to build that up, especially after the games when Harry's had a massive peak and then had to take quite a bit of time off, and rightfully so. What else would I change? Not loads. Like skill isolation stuff, we already covered that. Soon as the games is done, start working on that. Even before the games, start working on that. Just because you don't know if it's going to come up. And lateral pegboard, like grip work, fantastic. Log muscle up, fantastic. So
I think there's always a time for in someone's week of touching on the skills, especially if they know these things are going to be something they need to work on. Right, like doing a 10-minute EMOM on a Saturday of just some log muscle up work. It's not going to bring you much fatigue into your body, but keeping a touch on that skill all year round is important, right, for someone at that level.
Let's take an example of how we're doing this now and not Rogue. Harry, from now to the semi-finals, will do erg shoot every week.
Yeah. Oh God, that's another one to
Okay. Now, whatever your opinions are on that being a CrossFit comp, he will do it because there's a chance that's coming up at semi-finals. So we'll start preparing now.
Yeah.
Simple, right? It's also a very close skill, so it's so easy to add in. But we don't need to.
Actually builds from doing an erg shoot, or maybe a trigger finger.
Yeah. So that's something where it's like, oh, you might see him. Say it's at semis. Harry's coming around, he does his running and clean and jerks, and now they're shooting fine. He just nails it. Wow, he's so good at that. No. Like, 30 weeks of practice will help, right? So yeah, that's that. I think uh, that's all I changed really.
Let's just
We had a
say
good time.
let's hope Overshoot doesn't come up at the semi-finals.
Well, yeah.
If he's getting 30 weeks of practice, maybe he'll be happy about it. Who knows?
Maybe it's our niche.
What other questions did you have on your Instagram? Go for it.
I had a few, but we've pretty much covered it all. Expectations. What would you do differently? So that's fine. Exposure to odd objects. Like yeah, but like yeah. There is an element as well. Like people are like, man, like that yoke. You need to do more yoke. I'm like this. That yoke's 300 kilos, man. Like that. Okay, it was like 285, but like at this point, like there is an element of just like being bigger and stronger, just
Yeah.
needing to be bigger and stronger. Not saying that that's directly for Harry, but also that.
With
Someone
you
asking,
think that obviously, yeah, like you say, with where the sport's kind of gone in the last even like 2-3 years, we've kind of discussed it a little bit where maybe due to the inclusion of more ergs through the board, through the season, through semi-finals and the games, it kind of has started to lend itself for this like athlete archetype to be a little bit on the bigger side, on the taller side, on the heavier side. And it's how much, not saying that, like I say, Matt Fraser wasn't the tallest, and he fucking absolutely slammed everything, right? But then, since then, it's almost kind of gone to this, well, you're seeing more echo bikes, you're seeing more skis, you're seeing more rows, all of these things at competition. And now the athlete kind of has got bigger, right? With Jason, with James, like those guys being bigger guys. Is that something that, we think is going to continue, that you'd tag people into? Because obviously there's always things that you say, okay, if you want to be competitive in the sport and you're 5'10", you need to try and be around this weight, otherwise you're just not going to be able to compete. But is that shifting upwards?
I think it has shifted upwards in the last couple of years. Yes, I agree with what you just said. I think it shouldn't continue to shift. It should slow down, stop, or even potentially go backwards slightly, because the deadlift ski workout is a perfect example of that from Rogue, even though again it's not a CrossFit comp. The body weight element was kind of pointless. Like you say, even at the games, like the power output, I could go into the games programming so much, but let's not. Like, I do think typically, this is what I'll say, in previous CrossFit games where Europeans have done better, typically slightly lighter,
Yep.
and typically a bit weaker. There's been scope for longer events, endurance events, more body weight things, aka Murph. Like you don't want to be heavier doing Murph, right? Like, yeah. So I do think that obviously the setup will limit that, but I think as a well-rounded test, it is too biased towards power endurance, probably like strength endurance right now. Not massively at all, but I think that it is, yeah.
You'd argue that on the girls' side it's kind of the same, but I think it's been like that for a bit longer on the girls' side. That it's not too much of an extreme, right? Like it's not crazy high, but generally on the girls' side and now on the guys' side, like you get really punished if you're light, and now that's the same. It's kind of always been the same on the girls' side if you're really light, and now it's kind of the same on the guys' side. If you're too light, you're just getting punished, especially something like Rogue, but even through the season, right? Like take French Throwdown semi-finals last year, right? Not that it was crazy, but you had a heavy axle bar, you had heavy Isabel, you had heavy sandbags. If you're on the lighter side, you are going to struggle a little bit more with that, right? The guys that are on the top of the podium, qualified for the games, again, are the bigger guys at semi-final, right? So it's across the board.
Short time domain, power output stuff, right? With barbells and ergs mostly and moving implements. So yeah, I agree. Like again, you can like pick this, but pick this. One thing I'm gonna have to say it was really interesting to me at the games this year when we watched some of the behind the scenes testing that Dave put out, because I do think again that some of the skill elements are not utilized enough. Like they had let's take the workout. Harry did really well in this one. Wall walks, heavy dumbbell, crossover double unders, toes to bar.
Yeah.
That we have made a point of including that in our Saturday athlete camp sessions for the last year, working on skills, including crossover doubles, right? And he's got guys testing it who are doing them in singles, right? Whereas I've watched Harry do 100 unbroken.
Yeah.
And I wonder if the skill expectation and curve needs to be sped up a bit more and then
Yeah.
implemented into the programming in order to balance this out.
Like you say, right? We started doing that a lot more because Boz programmed that quarterfinals, and it's like, oh, so this is where the sport's heading. The sport's going in this skill direction. Great, let's do more of it. Let's do more pullover work. Let's do all that stuff. And then Dave starts programming it again, and it's kind of goes back down. And I was like, I'm not saying that's what, but like you said, we prepped so much for that crossover work since the games. Hasn't done a single crossover, I don't think, because it's kind of like, well, if the sport's heading the other direction, not the what's the point, but you know that instead of doing it year round to be really strong, if the demand is only going to be do 20 at a time, or whatever it was in a set, you can do that 4 weeks out and get fine enough at it. You don't need to do it
Especially because they built the base.
Exactly right. Instead, that base should now be spent on, okay, well, we just need to get stronger. We need to get better on the ergs because that's the thing that's tested more.
100%. And like the running's been such a big focus for Harry, and he managed to get 10th in the run event of the games. He didn't obviously manage to display his running ability at Rogue, which is a shame, like we covered. But, you know, why do the crossover dubs, like I say, like 30 at a time? I don't think Harry tripped in that workout. Maybe he did once, but like it was like 5 sets of 30 under quite a lot of fatigue. You know, like I just wonder where the data is that they're getting this from. Like you almost need, would be impossible, obviously, you almost need like all the coaches of the athletes who are at the top of the sport to like write the workouts because they kind of understand it. Maybe that's a bad suggestion, but do you know what I mean? Like,
you know what I mean? The sport's only getting better and people are only getting better, right? It's like the same thing as we said with the whole, like, you know, Rich Froning versus Matt Fraser. Matt Fraser, like where the sport has gone since Rich was at like his peak, went so much higher with Matt. Now, arguably, it's gone even higher again, right? Like if he comes into the games, obviously he was a freak, but is he still winning the games against like Jason and that? You don't know because the nature of the sport has changed and the tests have changed, and that's only going to keep happening. And you want to make sure that the tests kind of, you know, go alongside that, so they end up testing the fittest. And I don't think there's a problem with what the tests are. It's just making sure that the tests themselves, each one is testing what it actually wants to test. And say Dave was like, oh, I want to test crossover double under capacity. Apart from a few athletes who aren't very good at them, I don't think that workout tested that, right? And it's the same as Rogue. Wall facing capacity wants to be tested. That wasn't tested in that workout, apart from a few people who are really, really bad at them, and that isn't there. So it's just kind of making sure that you're so relevant with it, right?
Yeah, agreed. No, mate, agreed. I think you. Don't know. I wonder what people would think of our opinions on this stuff.
Yeah, probably hate us. Yeah, we're probably just going to talk rubbish. Like I say, get no views or get loads of comments.
Generally speaking, can I just say, like in case Dave Casher is watching, generally speaking, I do think the CrossFit programming is pretty good year round. Hence why, you know, my reasons why we did the online semis as opposed to trying to go anywhere else, because I do think you, especially online where you do have a bit more scope to do stuff like longer workouts and include lots of different elements in the gym. I do think the CrossFit programming generally is very good.
Yeah, no, agreed. Especially online semis format was really good. And when they've done the semi-finals before, CrossFit have controlled it all. And even if you look back into when it was regionals programming, some of those workouts were brutal, but actually really fun workouts as regionals. Sometimes when you hand them out to semi-finals to do what they want, yeah, then you start getting people's biases in. And there's all stuff like that, right? You can plan for the season.
Yeah.
If you know you're going to French Throwdown, you know you're going to Madrid, whatever it is, you can start to biased your programming towards things that you know that their programmers like to do. And I think sometimes,
I will be doing that this year for French Throwdown. But although, am I right in saying we're kind of drifting off, but the semi-finals this year, CrossFit are going to oversee the programming?
I don't know.
Okay.
I hope
they do.
Yeah.
I hope they do.
No, okay, we're going to wrap up. One question I want to ask you off the board, because I think people are interested in this one, and we can both answer it in that case. This year at Rogue, other than Harry, because you can't say, well, maybe he wouldn't even be your answer, so you can't say that. What is like your best, like, I think, standout performance from guy and girl at Rogue?
Standout performance. I thought you were going to ask me about like who's got any chat or a sense of humor or something. But okay. Well, standout female performance is definitely Lucy. You know, she was incredible, and I didn't get to watch loads of it on the weekend because of the nature of coming back and forth, but just with the nature of the events and pretty much everything that we've spoken about, I expected her to do worse than that. And that's not, obviously don't know enough about Lucy as an athlete, but yeah, I just think that was amazing. So absolutely hats off to her. Guys wise. So
I've got one that I think would probably, maybe you'd agree on, maybe you wouldn't.
Like Jay Crouch is a small dude. He did well, power to weight there with a lot of heavy workouts. Yeah, I don't really go on. Who's yours?
I was going to say Henrik coming back after last year with
Yes.
the Achilles. Like that was a really, I think, really impressive. Because not this is going to be really harsh, right? But obviously, when Harry wasn't getting his invite and it wasn't looking like he was going to go to Rogue, it's kind of a bit like, oh, come on, man, like what do you need to do? And then you get someone like Henrik getting the invite, and you're like, don't get me wrong, he's obviously great, but hasn't been in the sport the last year because he's been recovering from this. So you kind of have questions of, is he going to be able to go and perform, or is it just going to be a bit like, oh, he's still being cautious and then he goes and absolutely smokes it right and comes 12th. So
Yeah, I'm. First of all, hats off to Hendrik. Credit. I spoke to his partner, wife. I think they're married when we were there. Seriously, and I said to her, like, it's so great to see him back. I said it to him, but what are we testing?
yeah,
What are we testing? Wait till the quarterfinals workouts. Wait till the quarterfinals leaderboard goes live. Then we'll have a look.
no one's saying that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Lowlands favorite performance from Lowlands across the
Ooh,
board.
you can't make me pick really. Like out of my guys, like I could say two things. Tristan, I think, really performed well across the board. Really pleased for him. Lex, she did perform well across the board, but for her, snatching 70 on the floor in like a relatively high pressure comp situation, that's massive for her. So really pleased for both those guys. Obviously, for your guys, well,
We
we'll go.
spoke about it. We were like, go, come on, go for 75 if you get the chance. And then it was quite funny just seeing her do a snatch pull, and she was like, yeah, no.
Yeah, quite high though, right?
Well high, yeah. Power rate of that. Just need to, yeah.
We'll get there. We will get there. She did super well, and she enjoyed it, which is a big thing. She's one of those athletes who in the past has put a lot of pressure on herself and to the detriment of her own performance. And so it was cool that she, I think, is realizing that actually just a little bit less pressure, because she still has expectations, just like any athlete, but a little bit less pressure actually can produce better results.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And for you guys, and for you.
I honestly can't pick across the board. I know that's a cop-out answer, but Sven kind of winning was great. But again, kind of, that was the expectation
Thought
going in.
that would happen,
Still,
yeah.
PR's his snatch, which is awesome. Mikel coming fourth, just falling off the podium. That was awesome. He did really, really well across the board. And again, PR'd his snatch, 5 kilos again, which was huge. So that was great. And then Joe, now being a skinny little boy, not doing any snatching, still snatches 134. So yeah, that was across. And him, yeah, he's made some real progress. So getting fifth in that was a huge boost to what we've been doing across the weekend. So
I do want to say, and because I don't know how many people will listen to this, but if you're a competitor in the UK, especially, I really would push you to try and do Athens, because I just think from all the competitions that we've been to the last few years,
yeah,
I was really pleased with it. Also, I think that now, and we could, again, I don't want to go off on a massive tangent, but the opportunities to compete at a high level are becoming a little bit harder unless you're kind of like, top 20, top 30 in Europe, which is obviously an insane standard. So I think that is a fantastic opportunity for a lot of people who are have the goal of semi-finals, but are going to qualify for online top 2000 easy.
Yeah.
That's the perfect comp because you get a really good standard of European athlete there, and the setup's good, the programming was good. So yeah.
Just before semi-finals as well, right? So if you are someone who does manage to qualify for semi-finals, it's a great comp. It's like prep weekend almost, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. Flying to another country, practicing all that. Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully hopefully we'll be there with quite a few athletes this year again.
So we've been over an hour, so we'll stop there because probably people aren't going to listen to this anyway. 1.5 speed, that's what I do when I listen to long podcasts.
I think you and I both talk quite quickly. Yeah, 1.2. 1.2, I hope you've had this on, everyone.
Right, well, hopefully we'll do more of these. Hopefully we'll get this out as well this week, and if we are, new phase of AD Athlete starting next Monday. Let's go.
Now we have to.
Exactly, now I've said it. And then we'll try and get another one out weekly, every other week.
Yeah, I must say, mate, I've been enjoying AD Athlete. I've done 2 from 2 days this week. I'm going to try and just do AD Athlete, apart from obviously the intervals and the Saturday athlete camp sessions, which are now included, obviously, in AD Athlete. So that's cool, even though they're 2 weeks behind or whatever. But I'm going to try and do that and then just be like a living, breathing testament to it for the Open and stuff.
Watch road performance is terrible, and then it's my fault.
It can't be much worse than last year.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
So let's see how we go.
Let's go. Okay, real quick. See you guys on the next.
Yeah, thanks for listening if you made it this far.
Yeah, I doubt it. Maybe just scrub to the end. Those people will.